The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I generally like to start the podcast with a sound bite, but because I need to let you know what's going on and some of you may not make it to the end, I want to put this at the beginning. This weekend, while I was at March for Our Lives in Atlanta, I received a phone call and a text message letting me know that a cousin who had been sick very briefly, but very severely, she passed away. And so this weekend, this Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we will be traveling to Ohio to say goodbye to my cousin Tony, who we all love so very, very much. She was 41 years old and she had 4 children, and just a really, really hard time. But just wanted to let you know that I won't be doing the podcast on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, but I will do my best to get someone to fill in to keep the content going. It's life. That's how life goes. And I'm just grateful for the good times and hoping and praying that we have more good days than we have sad days. That's all you can kind of really hope for in this life. So, sorry for starting the show on a down note, but, I kind of consider you all an extended family. And if I'm going to share it with anyone, it would be you, my extended family, and I wanted you to know what was going on this week. So look for different voices on the show this week, and just keep us in your thoughts. And if you pray, keep us in your prayers. And if not, just send some warm vibes, some warm vibrations our way as we do all this traveling this week. All right, people, let's get the show started.
6 minutes and 20 seconds with an AR-15, and my friend Carmen would never complain to me about piano practice. Aaron Feist would never call Kira Miss Sunshine. Alex Schachter would never walk into school with his brother Ryan. Scott Beagle would never joke around with Cameron at camp. Helen Ramsey would never hang out after school with Max. Gina Montalto would never wave to her friend Liam at lunch. Joaquin Oliver would never play basketball with Sam or Dylan. Elena Petty would never. Carol Lugren would never. Chris Hickson would never. Luke Hoyer would never. Marquine Duque Aguiano would never. Peter Wang would never. Alyssa Al-Hadaf would never. Jamie Guttenberg would never. Meadow Pollock would never.
And then at that moment, Emmaz Gonzalez, one of the survivors of the Stoneman Douglas shooting in Parkland, Florida, took the remainder of a total of 6 minutes and 20 seconds and held one of the most significant and, I have to say, impressive moments of silence and pause. Even if you want to say for dramatic effect, it was simply brilliant to demonstrate both how long as well as how short 6 minutes and 20 seconds is. It's long when you're sitting there thinking about it, but in the intensity of the tragedy at Marjory Stoneman Douglas, it was but a moment, a brief 6 minutes and 20 seconds.
Since the time that I came out here, it has been 6 minutes and 20 seconds. The shooter has ceased shooting and will soon abandon his rifle, blend in with the students as they escape, and walk free for an hour before arrest. Fight for your lives before it's someone else's job.
There are a lot of critiques, a lot of criticisms of what happened on Saturday, and we can get into that. But I'm going to do what I had hoped someone would do for me at that age. And I'm going to support them. And if ever given an opportunity, then of course I'll drop some nuggets of wisdom to help steer them in the right direction, which is what I think, or in an even more right direction, right? Because these kids are doing it. These kids are doing so. One thing I don't like is when people sit on the sideline and criticize, but you are actually doing nothing. I was surrounded this weekend on social media by people criticizing these children to no ends. people who were infuriated because they spoke of police and the military being the only people who have access to these types of guns, right? Because that type of language is the language of liberal imperialism, right? It's imperialism nonetheless. And one of the main speakers said that he was joining the military. Oh my God, you would have thought this guy said he was joining the Klan. I mean, because I guess to some people it's exactly the same thing. But I read one post where a person got all kind of retweets talking about she hopes that the guy who said he was joining the military would die on a landmine while he's out there killing brown people in other nations. And you know what I don't think in those moments? I'm like, you fatuous. I mean, oh my God. You person of such great intellect and such great wisdom about the universe that you have it all figured out at whatever age you are, probably in college still, you have it all figured out. And you would speak this over a child who not only doesn't have it all figured out, but now they have the responsibility of being on the front line of a national conversation, though they don't have it figured out, but they're trying their best. Oh, you self-righteous, impetuous, sideline commentator, organizer of nothingness. If you are that concerned about what these kids are doing, then do something yourself. Work with them. Work with them instead of trying to destroy them, because what they're trying to do is far more important than your critique of them. And I'm not robbing you of your opportunity to critique them, because nobody is perfect, but you're out to destroy these kids. You want to throw these kids out with the bathwater. What the hell are we supposed to do nothing until we get the perfect thing? And you expect teenagers in high schools to have their praxis down and their theory down perfectly when you didn't learn about this until you were 21. Why would we try to destroy these children? Because they don't have every I dotted and every T crossed. Most of them haven't even gone to prom yet. Most of them have not gone to grad night yet. None of them have taken a course in American imperialism. They probably haven't read Marx. Most of you, the critics of these kids, didn't either at their age. And you, at your grown adult age, probably haven't done as much as these kids. I'd venture to say you haven't, because I haven't. So I'll say we haven't done what these kids. They have moved the ball in this national conversation around guns more so than anyone else. And yet we have people. So I like stopping sentences in mid-thought because I want you to get an idea of how my brain works. It is valid to critique anyone and everyone. So I'm not robbing from the critics of Saturday's March for Our Lives of your opportunity to critique them, because I believe there's firmly a difference between critiquing and criticizing. I'm not robbing you of your opportunity to critique them, but I'm critiquing your critique because that's just the way it goes. I think your critiques, while you may be right in principle, in actuality, it's sideline coaching. In actuality, I would love to come to one of your protests that perfectly enunciates the problems of American imperialism, even if it's liberal imperialism. I would love to come to your rally and your protest, or even to push your political policy, your piece of legislation. I would love to support whatever it is that you do that perfectly enunciates the ills of American imperialism as soon as you organize it. So I'm not robbing you of your opportunity to critique these children. What I am saying is our energy would be most effective if we support these kids and simultaneously push them in the direction that best represents what we want to see the future to be. So anyway, I didn't mean to get into that. I would much rather listen to the voices from Saturday. Listen to 11-year-old Naomi Wadler as she speaks so beautifully on behalf of the young women of color who are often overlooked in these conversations.
My friend Carter led a walkout at our elementary school on the 14th. We walked out for 18 minutes, adding a minute to honor Cortland Arrington, an African-American girl who was the victim of gun violence in her school in Alabama after the Parkland shooting. I am here today to represent Cortland Arrington. I am here today to represent Hadia Pendleton. I am here today to represent Tiana Thompson, who at just 16 was shot dead in her home here in Washington, D.C. I am here today to acknowledge and represent the African-American girls whose stories don't make the front page of every national newspaper. People have said that I am too young to have these thoughts on my own. People have said that I am a tool of some nameless adult. It's not true. My friends and I might still be 11, and we might still be in elementary school, but we know life isn't equal for everyone, and we know what is right and wrong. We also know that we stand in the shadow of the Capitol, and we know that we have 7 short years until we too have the right to vote.
I don't, for 1 second, expect these kids to have it all figured out. But damn it, if I don't support them and push them and elevate their voices. I mean, their voices are already elevated, but continue to support them. I'm simply amazed at the number of actual critics from the left side of the spectrum. I am not surprised the least bit with the critics from the right, who I'll get to in a minute. But from the left, I am simply blown away because of how many people who look at these kids, particularly they're on social media, which ultimately somebody's at Prison Culture on Twitter said, she's comforted by the fact that all of these voices who are criticizing, not even really critiquing, but criticizing these children, they will never organize anything to actually threaten those kids' voices. So while you're criticizing on Twitter, these kids are out here organizing and doing something, and you're not doing anything but criticizing them. So ultimately, we probably can just ignore your criticisms of them, which would be a tragedy. Which is a tragedy because you know what? It's not as though at the core of what you're saying, you're wrong, but the venomous nature of it, the vitriol, the willingness to toss the babies out with the bathwater when no one did that to you. It speaks volumes of how willing you are to burn the opportunity to make society actually better in the way that you want to make it for the opportunity for you to show your bitterness. At children that you should be mentoring rather than trying to destroy. I mean, I completely understand conservatives, the NRA, Republicans trying to destroy these children, but people from the left. Matter of fact, let's talk about this clip from NRA TV, Grant Stinchfield, as he lectures David Hogg, one of the organizers of the March for Our Lives. Well, has to be 17. David went on a rant on a podcast, on a video, and he used more profanity in a couple seconds. I mean, he cusses as good as I do. Let's just put it like that. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to play David Hogg's clip, of course, with the words edited out. And you can just use your imagination. And then I want you to listen to a grown-ass man, Grant Stinchfield, as he laments over being cursed at by a kid.
Do you think what sick f***ers are out there that want to continue to sell more guns, murder more children, and honestly just get reelected? What type of person are you when you want to see more money than children's lives? What type of person does that?
All right, that's David Hogg. That's the clip that everyone is running around and asking, is this a role model? Is this the type of person you want to be a role model for your children? Get off my lawn, essentially, is the argument. Those arguments never work. I hope that I never get so old in my mentality that I forget that you can never shame teenagers into obedience. Get off my lawn. Listen to Grant Stinchfield as he, get off my lawns, this kid. Yes, I totally just made a verb out of that phrase.
It is profanity laced and about as harsh as you can get. I would never want to censor what that young man has to say. It is his right. I may ask, where are his parents? I wouldn't let my son talk like that, not at 8, not at 17. But censoring isn't up to us. Yet it's them who want to censor our voice on Apple TV, Amazon Prime, Roku, so many other places. So as they call for boycotts over us for simply speaking the truth from the heart, will anyone boycott tomorrow's march over David's comments? Will Oprah and George Clooney denounce his hate for NRA members, for gun owners across America?
I'm sorry, but let the record forever reflect that these people are the true snowflakes. Yes, I know. I understand where you get the... I know how problematic that word is, but that's their favorite word. And they are, I mean, it's like a snowstorm of sensitivity, of feigned sensitivity. And also a snowstorm of stupidity as well as false equivalences. I mean, you simply cannot compare profanity to the language that is used to excuse away this incessant obsession with guns, that while it may simply be a sport and hobby for some, that obsession and their arguments from the NRA and NRA TV and Dana Lash and all their sycophants, that language empowers the ability of individuals who want to kill children to get guns without any problem whatsoever, without any hurdle whatsoever. I'm sorry if you don't like it when motherfuckers cuss. Anyway, I'm not even going to argue that, because you honestly know it's not about the profanity. It's about using any opportunity they can to attack these children, because these children have the NRA on the defensive. So I totally get the NRA coming after them with everything they have, including co-opting the narrative of black communities. We'll get to that in a moment. I totally understand the NRA doing everything they possibly can to destroy these kids. I still don't understand the left being the I guess I do understand it. But shame on you on the left who expend more energy attacking these kids than you do trying to help them to see what you feel is the greater enlightenment. And on some things I agree with you. But this is how desperate the right is. One more clip of Killer Mike. Everybody's favorite Bernie bro. I never really got into Killer Mike like that. You could check the record. I mean, people are going to assume because he's a big guy, I'm a big guy, he's from Atlanta, I moved here. Well, honestly, those things are irrelevant. People are going to assume that because he's black that I actually even listened to his music, and that I never really been. Check my backlog. I think maybe I've mentioned him twice in 2 years. But his, listen to what he said on NRA TV, and then we'll discuss.
Because an ally is not necessarily a friend. Yeah. Right? It's not necessarily, it's not fam. We have a mutual interest in something that progresses us both. Yep. Why are your allies not fighting your other fights with the same vigor you're fighting these? Like I told my kids on the school walkout, I love you. If you walk out that school, walk out my house. We are a gun-owning family. Yeah. We are a family where my sister farms. We're a family where we'll fish, we'll hunt, but we are not a family that jumps on every single thing an ally of ours does, because some stuff we just don't agree with.
Oh, the absurdity of a straw man. Killer Mike, hey, nobody's coming for your guns, big fella. Nobody. I can say that because I'm a big guy, too. Nobody's coming for your guns. You know that. And the NRA knows that. The question is, do you know that and still roll out this insipid argument for political and economic gain like the NRA? Because the NRA knows full and damn well that the only person in this country who's saying that we need to take every single gun, even BB guns, out of your hand is Benjamin Dixon. And the reason I say that is because of the absurdity of the hardline straw man the NRA continuously pushes down the throats of Americans that Killer Mike just perpetuated. The idea that they're going to come and get it. Nobody's coming to get your guns except for me. Because I know so long as the NRA is allowed to hold that straw man argument in a hardline stance on the right side of the spectrum, and as long as we try to negotiate with unreasonable people, we'll never move the conversation forward. These kids aren't asking for anything revolutionary or radical. And yet he gets on there and makes a statement to his kids. If you walk out of that school, then you got to walk out of my house. That's the best Southern accent I can come up with right there. I could have done a lot better, but I apologize. All right, let's listen in a little more. I'm going to have to do a stop and play with this because it's that ridiculous.
Here we are. We have a march that's going on next week, and our biggest celebrities are donating millions to a march. Yeah. While our inner city schools over here are in deplorable conditions. We're donating $3 million to a march about gun control. Yeah. But yet we have communities over here that are in economic downturn. Like, it's ridiculous to me.
Yeah. Celebrities often don't know what to do. They're told what to do.
Now, I probably shouldn't comment on that because the guy making the argument, Colin Noir, whatever the hell his name is, that's him. That's not Killer Mike. But, bruh, come on. Spare us the childish and insipid whataboutism there. Because, number one, a couple of $1 million ain't going to fix nothing, my brother. It's not going to fix nothing in the inner city that you're so concerned about, that the NRA is so magically concerned about. Oprah Winfrey and George Clooney gave $1 million. You know what we could have done with $1 million? Yeah, you probably couldn't even fix one block with $1 million, even with the depressed home values. Okay, anyway, keep it going. Keep it moving.
Yeah. We are raising a generation of kids where everyone gets a trophy. But in real life, everyone don't get a trophy.
No.
In real life, the cops don't come on time. In real life, depending on where you live, you're not going to have the time to try to logic your way out of something.
Listen, again, number one, nobody's trying to come get all of your guns except for me. And the only reason I'm trying to get all of your guns is because the NRA has created this hardline position that is so far to the extreme that they want to arm embryos. Right? And so without a countervailing force on the opposite side, we're never really going to get anywhere. So everything that Killer Mike is saying in here is completely useless and pointless because, bruh, nobody's trying to take your little guns. But what you have done is that you have given credence to the NRA, an organization that did not stand with Philando Castile, who was a legal gun-owning citizen who was killed by the police. The NRA doesn't give two damns about any of the police violence as Not only do they not care about it, but they actively advocate against black and brown communities. See, this is why you were a token on Saturday when this video came out. And this is why the Colin Noir, whatever his name is, this is why he's a token. You are a token because you are doing the bidding of an organization that would just as soon turn their backs on you if a cop killed you as they did Philando Castile. Talking about at the beginning, I don't know if I played this part, but talking about you never disagree with progressives. What? And no, he's not talking to me directly because he doesn't know me, but this is how ridiculous the argument is. I spend most of my day arguing with progressives about all the stupid shit that they do. But you create this, oh my God, the fascination with straw men that conservatives and Killer Mike in this instance has to use to get their point across. No, this black dude who is the NRA spokesperson because Dana Lausch is now, nobody gives a crap what she says. He's nothing more than a token because he is serving an organization that their membership would rather see you die than to ever speak about the problems of police violence in black communities. And that is no hyperbole. They would revel, laugh when Eric Gardner said he could not breathe. He couldn't breathe. They wore T-shirts saying I could breathe just fine. They laugh. They get pleasure. They get joy out of our pain as black people. And you've got the nerve, Killer Mike, to go on that program and spout your useless straw man because ain't nobody trying to come get your guns but me. And you are furthering this hyper hardline position that won't even allow for background checks. In some cases, in some states. And then it became this thing about, why are you fighting for allies that don't fight for you? Tell me which group of people that I'm fighting for that isn't fighting for me when I should just be fighting these fights anyway. What I mean by that is, so I hear this all the time. The Hispanic community, the immigrants don't fight for black people. You do realize they're black immigrants, don't you? Oh, the LGBTQ community ain't fighting for black people. You do realize there is a LGBTQ community in the black folks can be gay. You know, all these things, there are things that you just don't see them as preeminent problems for you. You see them as secondary because you're not an immigrant, and you see them as secondary because you're not gay or lesbian. Whereas if you're really fighting for all black people, Killer Mike, you're fighting for all these issues because they affect black people. And if you feel like our allies are not doing everything that they should do, then instead of aligning for a day with the NRA, an organization that would rather see you dead than to ever do anything about the police violence that's happening in our communities every single day, instead of aligning with them, do like this sister did.
We're here for three important reasons. Number one, what they will not do is ignore black voices. Number two, what they will make sure to do is include our agenda in the agenda for gun prevention reform. When we talk about legislative issues and solutions for gun violence, it has to include the intersections of black violence. That means guns, that means gangs, that means schools, that means teachers, that means police brutality, that means state violence. It has to include all of that stuff, and we're going to be able to do this together. This is not just about white people in school shootings in the classroom. They kill us in churches. They kill us on the streets. They kill us in the car. They kill us when we're traveling. And they kill us in our classrooms. We're here to organize, represent, and show power. And the third thing that we're here to do is make sure we have a great time. We came from all across the entire country to be here for this specific moment because I want my people to feel empowered. And I want them to go back to the field and to know that when they get back to the local organizing, that's where it matters.
Y'all better listen to black women. That is, wow. Tiffany D. Loftin. My God. Did she ever kill that? Wow. And this is like the Capstone course. What she just said. This encapsulates everything that we talked about today. For all the people on the sideline criticizing and trying to destroy these kids from the left, all these perfectly practiced people who have their communism and their socialism down perfectly, and American imperialism, and you're so perfect but you're not doing anything. But what you could have done is be like Tiffany and been out there and said what they won't do is alienate and make it more dangerous for people with mental health issues by forwarding the idea that the police should be able to take weapons away from or vilify people with mental health issues. You should have been out there doing it and speaking it just like Tiffany was out there speaking. And what you should do is be out there and say, how can we want to make sure that if you're going to tackle gun violence, then you have to tackle the greatest purveyors of gun violence, which is number one, our policing agencies, and number two, our military. And if you're going to attack that, then you have to address imperialism. So you could have been out there and said what you won't do, like Tiffany said. What you ain't going to do is leave out these things. And what you're not going to do is to alienate people with mental health issues because they're not going to have it perfect. But because they don't have it perfect, it's your job to get out there and help them to get even closer to perfection instead of just trying to destroy them. Tiffany could have just as easily sat back and said, oh, this is all garbage. This is nothing. This is all trash. F them. They ain't nobody. They ain't nothing but a bunch of privileged white kids. But instead, what she did was she seized the opportunity for this platform to benefit her people just as much as it benefits anyone else, and to elevate the voices of black people as much as it elevates anyone else's voices. All right. I've given all I can give. I'm done with this one. Pack it, ship it, send it off, Federal Express. Actually, no, use the United States Postal Service. That's all the show I have for you today. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. Again, I'll be gone Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I'll try my best to have some guests here to keep the commentary going. Do me a favor. We're still in the fundraiser. I didn't mention it at the top for obvious reasons, but go to patreon.com/the BPD show and become a patron. Tomorrow, I will list all the newest patrons that signed up over the weekend, but we really need your support. We're going to bring video back to this. We're doing a whole new thing. Check out our page on Facebook, like it or not. And see you tomorrow. Take care, everyone.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.